What's good, y'all? So this is how I made $353 trading the NASDAQ today. So let's get right into the charts. First thing I want to point out is that we've finally escaped this range that we've been trading in since December on the daily chart. This was a abysmal range. You can see we were stuck between this high here from December 26th and this low from January 13th for literally the entire month of January and half of February. So finally, we've escaped out of that range and have begun forming some low resistance liquidity conditions. How do I know that we are forming now more low resistance liquidity conditions? Well, once you start to see imbalances that are created, that is indicative of low resistance liquidity conditions. If they're created and they're not traded into and enclosed immediately, that means we're in low resistance liquidity conditions. And so last Thursday and Friday, after we had the manipulation after CPI, we finally got out of this range. So now going into this week, I was kind of looking for the market to draw into this all-time high that was resting at 22,450. However, these last couple of days, you can see we've had just huge wicks on the premium and discount side of these candles. So essentially on a lower time frame, which I'll show you here in a second, we're back in those low resist or high resistance liquidity conditions. Whenever you see candles with wicks on both ends, generally that's indicative of high resistance conditions on a lower time frame. So I'll go ahead and mark this imbalance here. And one thing I want to point out is make sure when y'all are marking your imbalances, you're including the volume imbalance. You could put it like this, but you want to make sure you include that volume imbalance there as well. So that was on our daily chart. One key thing to point out. So potentially before we drew back into these highs, I was definitely, open to the possibility that the market would want to come down into this BISI and then trade into these all-time highs afterwards to rebalance this inefficiency. So on hourly time frame, this is how the market looked going into the New York session open today. So you can see here Monday, which was a bank holiday. It was pretty lethargic price action. You should not have been trading Monday. Tuesday, we kind of poked our head outside of that weekly true day open, which was that midnight open price on Monday, manipulated higher and then came back down. But you can see we kind of came back into this range. And then Wednesday, we just consolidated within this range as well. So there wasn't really much, honestly, going on these last couple of days in the week. Were there setups? Absolutely. Were they high probability? Depends on your strategy. For me, not necessarily. So going into this New York open session, again, I was waiting for us to kind of get out of this range, either trying into all-time highs, which was at 458 up here, or into this imbalance on the daily chart, and then kind of just seeing what the price action would look like there. Honestly, I just wanted to get out of this range that we've been in the last couple of days. So you could see that we had sell side liquidity here. And then we also obviously had buy side liquidity at the top here. These highs were way too smooth, right? From Tuesday. The fact Tuesday we didn't sweep those highs. We also had an SMT up there. That to me is very suspicious. I'm definitely anticipating the market to reach into there. If not, tomorrow, then probably next week if we don't trade, lower. So going into today, like I said, this is what the price action looked like. So we did have our London highs here, right, on this time frame. So I was potentially watching for the market to either go take these highs or these lows here. These were London lows as well. So going into a lower time frame on the 5-minute chart, you could see as we kind of got into that hour, we also had some liquidity here. Again, every time frame you want to be aware of your liquidity. So we had our sell side, internal sell side here, external sell side here, internal buy side here. And once the market kind of got into the 9 a.m. hour, we did come and grab this buy side. And then from here, we did ultimately end up dumping as soon as the market opened. Now, I will admit, this was a great short opportunity, right? We swept this London high, right? We had this 5-minute imbalance here, which we ultimately did invert. And to me, the fact that we inverted this was very, very high probability. that we're going to go lower. And then we also had this change in the state of delivery. As you all know, that's the model I look for when I'm trading. However, because we were in this range, again, I wasn't really necessarily interested in taking it. We did ultimately end up coming back and retesting this change of state of delivery, right? So this was an amazing entry here. This is a 10 out of 10 A+ entry. I would take this every single day of the week if we're in low resistance liquidity conditions. So you can see we end up trading back into here, and then ultimately the market does dump lower after we retest this inversion, this SIBI here, right? And then ultimately we do head to our draw on sell side, which is here, and then we have a huge dump lower, literally 70 points in 5 minutes, and we come back into our daily imbalance here. So this to me was probably the best trade of the day. If you did take the shorts here, I mean, even if you took it up to here, that was still 140 up from here, 190. That was literally about 60 points that you could have got on that. So great setup there. And then once we had the 950 macro open, the market did ultimately end up trading lower, and we tapped the consequent encroachment of this daily fair value gap that I had just outlined a minute ago. So if we drop now to a lower time frame, again, keep in mind at this point now, the market has now sold off. We've taken all sell side liquidity and we've traded into a higher time frame discount array, right? So at this point, the market could definitely reverse and go higher, right? We had this inversion that got put in here, right? Once we begin, again, if we were truly in continuing to go lower, we would respect these imbalances, right? We put 2 inversions in here, right? That's an inversion, that's an inversion. To me, this is this is telling me order flow is now changing from bearish to bullish. We also had this buy side imbalance, sell side inefficiency here, right? So the market ends up trading into it here, and then we do ultimately expand higher and trade into the sell side liquidity that was marked there, right? And then ultimately, what I was now looking for was an internal sweep of liquidity, a change in state of delivery, and also a change in order flow, right? So the reason I didn't take this trade down here was because it was outside the macro window, right? So I wasn't necessarily interested in entering here. I didn't know if the market was potentially gonna come take this liquidity again. But once I saw that we were now holding bullish order flow, even on a higher time frame, right? If we look on the 5 minute, we've now put in a 5 minute imbalance here, right? So now I'm just potentially watching to see now, can I get that model that I look for on an internal time frame, a lower time frame? So now where's our liquidity resting? Well, we had sell side resting here. So the market does end up trading lower into this sell side liquidity. We take this sell side liquidity, right? And once we sweep this liquidity, now I want to see a change in state of delivery. What does that mean? I want to see us invert bearish fair value gaps, right? To justify that we're going to go higher, right? Remember, we're trading in a higher time frame daily BISI, right? So we already have a higher time frame bias or narrative for us to go higher. Now I need to see it confirmed on the lower time frame. So we get this here. Now, generally, I would want to see our change of state of delivery here. We kind of do close above there, but I would like to usually see more displacement than that. But the fact that we formed this daily SIBI here, I mean, this 1 minute BISI here, validated to me that now this is bullish order flow again. This strong candle up, that's displacement with this candle here. So honestly, what I did was I took an entry into when we tapped into this daily BISI with my stop loss below here, targeting the 15-minute highs that were ultimately, there was a 15-minute, let me show you here on the 15-minute chart. I was targeting this here, right? This opening price, because that potentially would validate now changing state of delivery to the upside. So I knew if the market got there, then now, okay, that's telling us that we're pretty bullish. So from here, we traded into this BISI, and you can see we held the midpoint pretty nicely there. So the market then did trade higher. Then we formed this order block here, as well as another daily 1 minute BISI there. So now it's just a matter of kind of watching price action and seeing if we respect. You can see here we respected this daily I'm sorry, I keep saying daily. We respected this 1 minute BISI here, right? So ultimately we did end up coming into here, and the market did kind of stall right here. And I was up about 485 here. I decided to take 3 of my contracts off just in case we decided to reverse. So I sold 3 of them here, and then I had 2 left, moved my stop up to about here. And then ultimately we did retrace back lower, and we held this order block here. Actually, my stop wasn't here yet. I had it here, under here, but my entry was in this BISI. So my entry wasn't this high, but I had my stop. I remember I had my stop resting below this, this 1 minute SIBI. So you can't, cause I remember it barely missed my stop. So we came down, missed my stop, and then we traded back up. And I was looking for us to kind of expand higher here. We didn't ultimately end up getting that. The market kind of did trade a little bit higher, but we came back and it ultimately ended up stopping me out there. And then of course, as it always does, it rallies to your target. I think we took internal liquidity one more time here. We swept this liquidity. Yep, here. And then we rallied into my target, which was ultimately there once we got into this 1220 macro window. So it was, it was decent price action today. Nothing, to cry home about. But again, watching order flows, seeing what side of the marketplace is being respected and disrespecting, that's kind of what gives you conviction to hold. Kind of sucks to get stopped out here by a couple points, because literally I got stopped out by a couple points, and then for the market to rally into your target. But, that's the nature of the game. Not going to complain about it. Just be, happy that I was able to take some off, and ultimately, it ended up being a pretty great trade in my opinion. So that was the trade I took today. There was honestly a few good opportunities in all of this kind of nonsense earlier today, right? There was a pretty good short opportunity here. We traded into the midpoint of a 15-minute SIBI here. That was higher time frame array. Had a change of state of delivery here. Retested that change of state of delivery here, and in this macro window, right at the end of it, and then we sold off into the sell side here. So that was a good short. This long, obviously. So a pretty good amount of opportunities today, honestly. So hopefully, from here, I want to see the market expand into our all-time highs now that we've traded into the midpoint, and we've held the midpoint nicely in this daily SIBI. I would like to see us now expand with some speed above this region of price action that we came out of yesterday or today, and above that and into our all-time highs. If we do that, I do think we'll now get into some really, really good low resistance liquidity trading conditions going into March and April. So that's all I got for y'all in this one. I will see y'all in the next one.